Alright, what's up everybody? Today I want to talk to you about discussion sections and what exactly they are in college. But before we even get into that, let me tell you about classes in college. And I think I already posted a video about this. Click in the link below and check it out. But today I'm going to be talking a bit more in detail. So when you sign up for a college class, you will come up to a screen like this. And you will see that you have things called lectures. So for this class called Math 1A, um, there are lectures on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. Those are lectures where you learn the concept. So if this was a calculus class, you would learn calculus, you'd learn derivatives, you'd learn integration by parts. You'd learn all of that stuff in lecture. So when I signed up for this Math 1A class, as a freshman, when I signed up for this class, I was like, okay, that's lecture. But then I was very surprised to see these two things. On Tuesday and Thursday, you'll notice that there are two discussion sections. So discussion sections, I was like, wait, if we're learning everything we learn about the class in lecture, what is the point of discussion sections? Well, as I said, I already made a video on the structure of college classes in, I think like about 2 weeks ago. So feel free to check that out in the description below. But the point is, lecture in public universities is usually between 200 to 600 students. That's a lot of people. It's taught by a professor. A professor has a PhD. He or she has spent his whole life teaching this, learning about this subject. On the other hand, discussion sections are 30 students, and they're taught by graduate students. Graduate students are people who are pursuing PhDs in the area that you're studying. So like in this case, if it was math, you would have a graduate student who's trying to get a PhD in math. Obviously the graduate students are very smart, and they have an insight into a lot of the topics, and they just basically are not the one teaching the whole class. They teach groups of 30 to 40 students, and they will teach you the review problems, and they'll teach you the overarching concept of the class. Okay, so now let me go a bit more into detail as to what exactly these discussion sections entail. Discussion is a supplementary aspect of lecture. It is not a replacement for lecture. So in lecture, if you learned integration by parts, in discussion, you would do practice problems to talk about integration by parts. If you had questions, right, I would be very afraid to ask a question in front of 400 to 500 other people. In discussion, because you have only 30 students, you can talk very freely, you can talk openly, and your graduate student or your instructor in your discussion sections will always make an effort to answer any and all questions you have. Again, if you're coming straight out of high school and going into college, this is kind of reminiscent of the high school environment because you have a very small group of people who are all there trying to learn about the very similar thing. And in this case, discussion sections can obviously range for a wide variety of things. You might have discussion sections for math, and you might have discussion sections for English, right? In math, your discussion section would entail doing practice problems or asking questions about concepts you don't understand. On the other hand, a discussion section for an English class might quite literally be a discussion about the topics in the class. So if you're doing readings in the humanities class you're taking, you could have a discussion about those readings. If you're analyzing particular themes in that class, you could literally have a discussion about those themes. So discussion, again, is just a way to address the class in a very supplementary sort of way, and it allows you to kind of get that whole high school environment back into your system because you really do get one-on-one time with someone who knows a lot about the material, just not the professor. The other thing I'm going to say is discussions are slightly different than high school in that discussions, even though they're reminiscent of high school, they contribute very little to your grade. So in this case, remember that most of your grade in college is based entirely on exams. So if you look at this image that I'm pretty much highlighting right now, oopsie, let me get that out of your way. If you look at this image that I'm highlighting right now, you'll see that there are 3 midterms in this hypothetical class, and of those midterms, that makes up almost like, I'd say 55% of your grade. And then you have a final exam. The final exam makes up another 35%. So 85% of your grade is just, 35%. So 90% of your grade is literally just tests, right? And discussion section, you'll notice, is in the last category where it's combined with homework and this other thing called iClicker to make up 10%. So even though discussion seems to be a big place where you can get a lot of help, grade-wise, it's very little, okay? And so in discussion section, you'll notice you might have quizzes, you might have assignments, you might have essays. But again, the things you do in discussion sometimes will have a very minimal effect on your grade, if any at all. Sometimes they'll have no effect at all. Going to discussion is purely for you And if you think you'll benefit from it, you go. And if you don't think you will, you don't have to go. Because again, some classes will make it a part of the grade, and then if it's a part of the grade, most students will go. But if it's not, it's entirely optional, and you can go if you want to. So let me give you some examples of discussion sections, okay? Because I think that really will drive this concept home. So when you have a discussion for a math class, discussion is where all your homework assignments will be given. So because you have a group of 30, it's much easier to distribute homework. So your discussion section leader, we at Berkeley we call them graduate student instructors, GSIs. Your GSIs will give you homework, and they'll say this homework is due in this discussion section next week, and you have 1 week to finish it. So, over that 1 week, you'll work and discuss and turn in homework problems during discussion. In math, you might also have weekly quizzes. So discussion sections in math actually serve as a way for you to track your progress. And the quizzes, again, are very negligible sometimes. They don't have that big of an impact on your grade. But again, it gives you an incentive to go to the discussion and keep up with the material. So that's a typical math discussion. Let me talk about a chemistry discussion. In a chemistry discussion, what you might have is you'll go to the discussion section and they'll give you worksheets that supplement the lecture. The worksheets, again, have no grade value. They're purely there to supplement the lecture. But in chemistry discussion sections, you might also be confused about certain concepts, so you can ask questions. And that's a typical chemistry discussion section. Again, some science discussion sections, chemistry included, might use discussion as a way to give you homework. I just have never seen that in my personal experience. In physics discussions, so physics discussions, especially at UC Berkeley, tend to be entirely optional. You can go if you want to in those discussions is that you do practice problems, or if people have questions about physics problems, the GSI will do the physics problems on the board. So the point is that discussion section is purely there for you to either get questions answered or see what questions other people have and see what you can learn from them. And this last discussion section is sociology. Sociology is a social science, and so it often is based on a lot more reading than chemistry or math because those have concrete problems. So in sociology discussions, at least the sociology class I had, what we would do is we would have certain readings every week, and so in the discussion is where we would talk about them freely in a group of about 30 students, and we'd also turn in weekly reflections about the readings. So that would mean, like, let's say I did a reading, we kind of analyzed the reading and we turned in weekly reflections. So that was what discussion was like in sociology. So the point is, I think the unifying theme for all of these is that discussion is a way for you to get the help you need when you need it. It's a way for you to reinforce the material, and it's also a way for you to ask questions in an environment that is very, very open and friendly. And with that, let me just hit on some last minute final points. Discussion is not a large part of your grade, but it's supplementary entirely. Okay, you can go if you want. It's often also not mandatory. Some classes will say discussion is optional, and if you think you will benefit from it, please go. But students who don't honestly think they'll benefit from it, don't go. I personally have sometimes not gone to a discussion because either I'm so behind in a class I don't think I would be doing it justice, or I just don't think I learned best in that way for a particular discussion section. What I will say, however, is discussion sections can be a great way for you to make a friend in a graduate student. Graduate students are insanely intelligent, and if you go to discussion sections, you ask a lot of good questions, you get to know the student. The student can actually write you a great letter of rec. And believe it or not, at large public universities, where the professor has 600 students he or she is teaching, the graduate is much better to get to know a grad student because the grad student can write you a letter of recommendation and then just get it co-signed by your professor. Because when you ask your professor, the professor will say, oh, I don't actually know you that well. Maybe ask your grad student and I'll just sign the letter that he or she writes. And that way, the professor, you still get a rec letter from that professor, but it has a content from a grad student who actually knows you much better. So with that, I hope you guys understand a bit more about what discussion sections are. If it's your first week of school, go to every single discussion section just because you don't know whether or not they are voluntary or mandatory or not. So if you go to all discussion sections in your first week, you'll figure that out. And then from there, you can decide whether you think you'll benefit from going or you wouldn't. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe, like, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey, thanks for watching the video. Really appreciate it. You want to check out any of my other videos, there's going to be one right here. Another link to one of my videos right here. and another video right here. Why not? I'll put one video right over here. And last but not least, if you want to subscribe to this channel, really appreciate it, because I'm still an early YouTuber trying to get it down, but a subscription button should be right over here. So please subscribe. Cool. Thanks. See you guys in the next one. Hope you find these videos helpful.